just received this sound design plugin and it made me want to try a few things, because if they are cool enough, that could make a new track for the album I'm working on in my playlist Finishing the Loop. So let's go right in. What is it? That's called Beam and it's from Lunacy Audio. Here the sound goes from left to right, and one, you can add different nodes. There's reverb, granular and filter, so up until now nothing exceptional. But two, you can add branches to make parallel path, put parallels inside parallels, put several instances of each node, use filters so each branch can affect different bands, all those things. And that make pretty cool delays and reverbs. But three, you also have two LFOs and a macro that you can attach to anything, whether drag and drop on any knob. There are a lot of pre-made LFO shapes and you can also edit your own. And even the reverb has its own LFO linked to the dry wet, because they knew we were going to use that a lot. So now that allows to make very cool, creative and dynamic effects. But to make them, you need to be very cool, creative and dynamic. Or maybe just creative. And sometimes you just don't want to spend an hour moving notes to find one cool sound. So what they did is that they loaded it with a ton of presets, all sorted by style, and you can also generate random patches. This is my favorite button. So the plan I have is that I have several sounds here, some cello, a piano, a guitar, a heavy bass, which is actually from Cube, the previous plugin from Lunacy Audio, and I have some drums as well. And I'll try Beam on them and select some presets and random patches I like. In my head it's going to sound glitchy and super cool, so we'll see how it goes, if it's a win or a fail. So I already composed something with those instruments. So I'll put Beam on the group with the piano, cello and guitar, but I'll put only the piano in solo to find some presets I like. I'll add an utility just before the Beam, so I can mute the sound to hear only the tail of the effect. I like this one, so to put it aside, I'll group it, duplicate the chain, mute the first one and go search another preset in the second one. The idea will be to have several effects and select the one we want to use with the knob. And you know what, I'll set that up right now by opening this chain selector and map it to one of the rack's knobs. Then extend this blue bar, right-click it and do distribute ranges equally. Now you can select which chain is active with the knob. I'll also link the second knob to the dry wet of each beam, so click on this arrow, and if the dry wet is not already there, click on Configure, and then click the dry wet on the plugin to add it to the list. Then you can link the dry wet to the second knob. With this, I also want to test its limits, because it seems to be pretty heavy graphically, as you can see, so I want to see if loading a dozen of it will break the project or if it's okay. I like this one as well, so I'll duplicate the chain, rinse and repeat. I like those rhythmic presets, so I'll go in the preset list, click on the Lunacy folder to see all the presets, and click on the rhythmic tag to see only the rhythmic presets. I like this one, so I'll take it. Now I remember seeing cool presets that had a 5 in their name, so I'll search for that directly. I love this one, so I'll duplicate the chain again. I love the sound of this one, but I think I'll chop it up to add some rhythm to it. So I'll open the LFO and check if it's not linked to anything already. No, it's good. So I could put a filter, click on it to see the control, and drop the LFO on the cutoff. But instead I'll click on one of those nodes that appear when you pass the mouse over, and that will reveal a gain knob that you can modulate with the LFO. Then if you click the LFO's waveform, you can select one of many pre-made shapes. I'll go for this one. But if you want to edit your own, you can click on this little icon and that will open an editing window. Alright, so let's keep that, and for the last one, I want to build it from scratch just to see the granular and the reverb modules. I'll remove the reverb node for now to focus on the granular one. Then I'll click on the node here and click on the bin icon, so that will remove the path that is highlighted here. So in the granular node, you have two parts. The parts for the grains on the left, and you have a delay on the right, with the dry wet knob at the end. If you click the magnifier icon here, you get a lot of presets just for this node. But for now, I'll synchronize the rate with the tempo and make it a bit faster. Then I'll change the grain shape to something more percussive. You can also add some randomness to the grain size, and I'll add a bit of delay just for fun. So now I'll add a reverb node to see how it works. Again, if you click on the magnifier icon, you have several presets, which are actually impulse responses, I guess. This is a convolution reverb, so its sound is based on a file that you can change there. They are sorted by type. Each type changes the design of the node, which is fun and pretty, and it's also practical, so you can quickly see the type of each reverb in your chain. And I love the sound of this reverb, cinematic masterpiece, so I'll go with that. And on the right you have an LFO that works in the same way than the main LFOs with the same presets, and this one will modulate the dry wet of the reverb. Now let's try the granular after the reverb. Pretty nice, I'll keep it. Let's reactivate all those chains and do distribute ranges equally again. Now, out of curiosity, I'll copy that effect track on the drums to see how it sounds. Now let's see on the bass. And last thing, to prepare the session, I'll add a utility effect before each beam effect, and on each individual tracks, so we can compose everything with automations, playing with the effect type and dry wet of each effect on each group, and with the volume of each utility effect on each track. So for the first loop, I'll try an intro by muting the cello, the guitar and the bass to keep only the piano and the drums. I'll try to introduce the drums gradually, starting with the high dry wet, and then I'll search for a nice pattern, playing with the effect type knob. I'll also add a high pass filter, opening slowly in the intro. On the instruments, I'll also add a low pass filter to open it slowly, reintroduce the cello halfway, that we won't hear in the beginning anyways because of the low pass filter, and change the effect for the last bit of the intro. Then I'll try and find a nice pattern by changing the effect type. For the next loop, let's open Cube, which is playing the bass, and lower the drum hits that are in there because I find them very loud. Also, it has a macro knob that I think will be better to animate. So let's see what it does. I'll copy this pattern to keep the bass like this in all loops. Then let's go back to the instruments where I'll find another pattern of dry wet and cutting the whole group to hear only the tail of the effect. So I'll copy that and play with the effect types to add variations, and I'll mute the piano as well to keep only the cello and the guitar. Okay, this is fun, so in the third loop, I will remove the cellos to keep only the piano and the guitar. I will automate the dry wet in a way that is the highest when the piano stops playing, and from there you know the process, fiddling, creating a sequence with the effects type. I could stop there, but this is actually pretty fun to make different variations. This used to be a loop that I really liked, but that was quite repetitive. And it's a fun process to kind of compose with only automations. So just for fun and after adding a few risers and impacts, here's the last version, with all the instruments this time. Let me know if I should finish and mix this, which would be done in video in my playlist Finishing the Loop, before becoming a track on the album of the same name. I hope you liked this little creative session with Beam. If you want to try it out, there is a link in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much to all my Patreon supporters as well. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you next time. Bye.